All right, welcome with Drew Dinsick. We're now both in the fine state of Arizona, so a little far apart. I'm in Phoenix. Drew is in Scottsdale. Checked in to a fancy-looking Airbnb. Today, we're going to bring in shortly former quarterback Ryan Leaf to break down Super Bowl, talk Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes props, talk everything. And then Drew and I will get into some novelty props, which is what the Super Bowl is all about. But Drew, firstly, how are you? What did you make of LeBron James?
That was awesome. Absolutely loved it. Everyone that was trying to throw cold water on that or like, let's restart the game. Like, I just felt like they didn't have an appreciation for what an important moment this was. Probably the only time in our lives we're going to see somebody be able to put together an accomplishment like that. I mean, it was awesome to see. I thought they did it well. Didn't mind at all the fact that it was in a losing effort for the Lakers, and I actually kind of appreciated that I didn't have to watch the fourth quarter of the game because it was it was over and we knew that he had gotten the record and I could kind of move on to other things. But I absolutely loved it. It was, and LeBron, congratulations! What an accomplishment! It was very, very cool to have. Have him as a presence as we were kind of in the meat of our NBA handicapping careers. What did you think?
Yeah, well, I tweeted out a bet that I had on the game, which was LeBron to break the record during the fourth quarter, which was and because he was plus 140 to break the record last night, but plus 250 to break it in the fourth quarter. And the thought was that if he's going to score 36 points, it's probably going to happen in the fourth quarter. Not baking in that the 38-year-old was going to score 36 points in three quarters. Just amazing that LeBron James, who's 38 years old, can just decide that he's going to score 36 points in an NBA game seemingly on a whim and do it efficiently. But we'll talk plenty of NBA later in the week and next week. But for now, let's welcome in Ryan Leaf. Ryan, if you want to do the
Collinsworth slide here?
Yes, well done.
Yeah, we're nice and cozy, Ryan and I.
We've always done our shows, virtually, so this is just get to know each other a little bit better.
Now we're overcompensating, but it's good. We're going completely right through the line. Brian, how are you enjoying Phoenix?
I'm enjoying it. This is, I think, the 7th year I've been doing Radio Row, and kind of more behind the broadcasting side of things now. So it's been a lot of fun. Seen a lot of what's really cool about it is I don't see a lot of the people for a year. Yeah. And then we'll see each other. It's almost like a reunion. This year I brought my family, though. And my little 5-year-old was out running around, putting the headset on, picking the Chiefs. Weirdo, but he was picking the Chiefs.
Well, yeah, we were talking about that. You got a little cheat code to get out of some of the social engagements, which can often be thrust upon you in a situation like this. Well, I got my kid.
I got my kid with me. He's got to be down at 8 o'clock, so that's the latest I can be out.
Yeah,
sorry.
I love it. All right, let's start talking about the Super Bowl. I want to talk about, to me, the most interesting aspect of the game is what's Jalen Hurts going to be like if he's playing from behind? Because all season, the Eagles, they've been playing with leads. They've been in positive game scripts where they can run the ball with perhaps the best rushing attack in football, best offensive line in football. Do you think that Hurts, if he gets down, is going to be as effective?
I look at what they did against the San Francisco 49ers 2 weeks ago, right? People forget, right? They were up 7, and then it was 7-7, right? And it wasn't like after the fumble by Purdy where he was knocked out, San Francisco got 3 consecutive stops, and then the team started running the football when they needed to. It's not like they had a big lead and they were just pounding things away. They needed to get back in the scoring thing, and what did they do? They ran the football, with all 4 guys, Gainwell, Scott, as well as Sanders and Jalen Hurts. So I think they get down early in this game. I honestly think that since Kansas City jumps out to an early lead and Philadelphia fights their way back and ultimately wears them down running the football and plays good defense.
Okay, how many points does Philly need to get to for you to feel pretty comfortable that they get this one?
First one to 32.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yeah. In terms of the first half, so you think that the Chiefs, who are the slight underdog in the first half, they're on points bet plus 100 to win the first half. The Eagles are minus 120. So you like the Chiefs to start off better?
I do. I think I see a 10-0 start early on by the Chiefs. A lot of the Eagles players are not familiar with the Super Bowl atmosphere, what it's like, kind of get their feet under them. They get back in it. Chiefs lead at halftime 17-14. Ultimately, the final, I got Philadelphia finding a way to kick a field goal late, 34-31.
Wow. That's quite the script. And boy, would that be entertaining.
Well, it's scripted.
It would be entertaining.
You know that, right? I talked about it on my Tuesday, how when they gave me the script, I was a little pissed.
Yeah.
they gave me a ton of back end money on the deal. So I'm
Okay.
living that billionaire life now, guys.
Okay, so if you were to be if you were going into this game with your portfolio of I'm going to allocate X capital on this game, how much would you save and keep your powder dry to try to get a better price on Philly live if it does go and Chiefs come out early and put a little bit of scoreboard pressure on?
Yeah, if I think it's going to start the way I think it's going to start, with the Chiefs kind of go up, there might be a real opportunity right at the end of the first quarter, maybe being down 10-0, to get a live bet there for Philly on the money line. It'd be a really good spot for that, I think, because I think it's going to be a game that's a little back and forth down the stretch, and I just think defense wins out. The biggest stat for me in this game, and I'm sure you guys have reiterated this, when you've had the number one pass defense versus the number one pass offense in a Super Bowl, it's happened twice. Happened back in with Oakland and Tampa Bay. That game was only a week apart, so I kind of put a little asterisk next to it,
sure,
because of 9/11. But the other one was Seattle and the Legion of Boom versus Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos, and they destroyed them. So when this game was first announced, I really thought Philly by a bunch. And then when I saw the line where it was at, I started to kind of look at things a little bit closer, realize that the scales get weighted one way or the other, and then you place number 15 on that one, and it balances out pretty quickly. We'll see early on how that ankle is going to affect him and how much they use him before they kind of change the game plan late in the game.
Yep.
Interesting.
Let's talk about some Jalen Hurts props, because I think coming into the game, a reason why the line flipped immediately from the Chiefs being favored to the Eagles being favored is the concern around Mahomes' ankle. To me, the bigger question mark is Jalen Hurts and the fact that he did not look right against San Francisco. He's wincing when he's getting hit. He didn't have the touch on the deep balls to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, which he's been so good at throwing all season. So do you think that Hurts is going to be limited? What did you see from him in the 2 playoff games back from the injury?
You probably have I didn't see it so much that he was having problems with. I think he was just kind of protecting himself when he was running the football. But I will say this, they were up by so much in both those games. I don't think the injury caused him not to throw the ball that much. I think it's because they just didn't need to.
Sure.
And so I'm not quite as worried about that. What I am worried is whether or not they're able to use his legs like they want to. We saw what it looked like against the New York Giants late in the year, where they were only asking him to throw the ball, and they weren't as effective. He's got to have to be able to use his feet, because that brings down that safety into the box, so they get another person in that gap, and then you get the one-on-one matchups with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on the guys in the slot or on a rookie out on the perimeter, and that's where he wins. And they have to be able to win by throwing the football because they run it so well.
Yeah, I will say there is a lot of similarities with this Eagles team and the Niners team that played against the Chiefs several years ago, where they didn't ask Jimmy G to do anything on that run. Like, literally, they got it all done on the ground. I don't know, did Jimmy G even have 100 yards passing in the win that go over the Vikings? Like, they just didn't have to do much. It was just one-way action, let the defense do their jobs, and we'll run it down their throats. But then that ended up kind of biting them in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, because they needed Jimmy Garoppolo to make some passes late in the first half to Kittle, and then late in the game to, was it Emmanuel Sanders? He just overthrows him. I guess, what is your general read on Hurts and his makeup as a quarterback? Is he going to be a little bit cooler in the moment, this being his first Super Bowl, and will he be able to go kind of put, that kind of key drive together to put this one on ice?
Yeah, I think this guy's got everything going for him. I really do. He's the hardest worker out there. I knew when he was drafted that Carson Wentz wasn't long for the Philadelphia locker room. He'll outwork everybody, and he'll get himself on the football field, okay? So when that big moment happens and you need a big play from him, he's either going to get it with his feet or he's going to make a play with his arm. It's just who he is. And this is Philly's time. It just is. It's Philly's time. They kind of resurrect and rebuild themselves every few years, Who knows? Maybe Sirianni and Jalen Hurts will be gone a couple of years from now, but there'll be a statue up of them or somewhere, and they'll be on to the next one. We'll see.
Well, let me ask you a quick follow-up, because you brought up a really interesting point there. Is this going to change the way that teams evaluate quarterback in the draft process? Because, the fact that he kind of slid to round 2 now in hindsight feels absurd. Like, this is a guy that you want to build your franchise around, independent of him, actually winning this Super Bowl. If he goes and beats Mahomes, then, you could all of a sudden, everybody's going to be looking for the next Jalen Hurts. But even outside of that, he was a value for them sliding in the second round. And I guess what do you look at for traits, and what would you expect the the draft process to change as people kind of absorb what he's been able to do?
Well, I don't think it was a stretch to where they went and got him. I was at his pro day, covering it for ESPN, and there were plenty of scouts and plenty of coaches that were really high on Jalen Hurts. It was just a matter of where they fit and where they fell to. And I think he was probably going to slip a little bit further into the second round. And Philly was just like, you know what? We saw what we saw. We like what we like. And we need somebody to push Carson Wentz and really make sure he's the guy that we need. And that's exactly what they did. So I don't think the evaluation will. I mean, if you want to, how about this? Whoever Lincoln Riley coaches, just go get that guy. He's been pretty darn good over the last 5 years or so with Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, and now Caleb Williams, right? I mean, it's pretty darn good.
Okay. Well, Ryan, I know you got a million things to get to, doing the rounds and the chaos, the human chaos behind us of Radio Row. So what do you got to plug? I know you're doing the Straight Line Pod with PointsBet. What else have you got going on?
Yeah, calling games for Westwood One, for ESPN.
Right.
Doing a lot of work, traveling the country, helping people with their recovery and ending the stigma around mental illness and things like that. I think those are the important things. That's the foundation, and it lets me get to do this pretty cool stuff. Shout out to PointsBet, man. They gave me my dream this year, gave me my show, and we've been killing it. We are 33 games over 500 this year.
Nice.
Picking it against the spread.
Well done. Well done.
157 and 125, I think, or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. And that's all.
Well,
track.
Not
a lot of people like to make up their own things.
Oh no,
yours is all there.
It's all
tracked,
we pick up every single show.
You know what I like about that? You get the script, and rather than be greedy and hit like 80%, where no one would believe, you fall right in that kind of very good season. 50,
I don't want to be. I don't even get booted out of like casinos and books and stuff like that.
There you go.
Of
All right,
course.
well, Ryan, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks,
I'll
buddy.
let you get to it.
All right.
Appreciate you having you
Back
on.
out.
Cheers. Yes, the Ryan Leaf slide. All right. Let's hit a promo, and then we're going to talk novelty and obscure props. So just a reminder, if you don't have the NBC Sports Predictor app, go download it now. The contests are free and easy to play, and you have a shot to win thousands this weekend by predicting what will happen in the Premier League and in college basketball. Before we talk about some of the novelty and obscure props, just saying the word Premier League there reminded me, just quickly, Drew, a little tangent. So there's a lot going on with Manchester City.
Yes.
And there is a lot of opportunity in the Premier League futures markets around a potential points deduction. So we can talk about it more in depth in a week where the Super Bowl's not on. But I would advise people to take a look at that market, because that is being priced as though it is a normal Premier League season. And maybe it won't, maybe it will be, but there is a chance, a non-0% chance that it's not, and Manchester City just won't be in the top four. And you can bet on stuff like Tottenham 80-1 to finish in the top two, and they're like 3 points off of third, which might just be second. Stuff like that. I would advise people to check out. But let's
do you have an early lean in Holland goals versus Patrick Mahomes touchdown passes?
It's a good one. Man City was playing Aston Villa. I would probably lean Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
Certainly Haaland is in with a shout. Haaland coming off the worst game of his career for Manchester City, so probably bounce back. But Villa, despite a loss as well, I think are playing a bit better under Unai Emery. All right, Drew, first team to call a timeout. I was a bit surprised by this one. The Eagles are plus 100. The Chiefs are minus 130. I would have thought that, look, it's a difficult market to price, but I would have thought that, potentially Sirianni for Super Bowl, that perhaps there might be a bit more scope where it would have been at least pick. But anything that you like in that market?
I lean Chiefs, just because Sirianni has done such a good job of not wasting his timeouts on offense this season. And honestly, like he's so analytically inclined, and just in general, like they'll take the delay of game if they have to. And oh, by the way, like the idea of Andy Reid potentially challenging something that he shouldn't challenge in the first half and losing a timeout because of that, I'm assuming that counts against the tally there. So I think Chiefs are realistically favored at minus 130. My fare would be a little bit higher than that, but it's a fun way to play the Chiefs just in general. Being a little bit more cavalier with their timeouts and challenges in this one. So I would go Chiefs or pass.
Yep, I think that makes sense. In terms of some other fun ones we've got position to score the first touchdown with running back, fullback being favored plus 175, receiver plus 200, tight end plus 300. I don't mind quarterback at plus 600. I suspect that this is another thing that folds in. Mahomes' rushing prop is 19.5, which is lower than it would usually be set because of the ankle. I suspect that's something where they might even have him run early just to establish that, so that the Eagles have to defend against it. So I think plus 600, and obviously the Eagles, more than any team in the history of football, if it's even just 2nd and 1 at the goal line, if it's a yard to go, they're going to be sending Hurts up the middle. I wouldn't be worried about that even with the injury. I mean, they were doing design runs from the goal line against San Francisco, even with the game well in hand. Anything that you like in terms of position to score first touchdown?
No, but the quarterback is where I was kind of going independent of seeing those prices. And now that I've seen those prices, I feel even more significantly that quarterback is a fun one. Way too much steam on tight end. That number is wicked hot. Plus 300 for the tight end is not anywhere close to fair. That should probably be closer to, in the 5-1 range. And quarterback 6-1 is not ideal, but I think, of those prices, that's the one that really speaks to me.
Yeah, I would say the tight ends are just being, well, particularly Kelsey, being a little overvalued in most markets. I think we've talked about it a little bit, but do not burn your money on Travis Kelsey at 10-1 to win Super Bowl MVP. That's just a poison bet. There are some spots where you can bet the no on Kelsey to win MVP, and that is. Yes. I know, sir, a friend personally has absolutely unloaded on the no, where it's basically the only thing they're going to be cheering for in the Super Bowl.
I can't believe you brought this up because I was going to ask you about this off air. There's yes/no markets now that are taking big limits and rebets, and there's a couple that look pretty good to the no. Kelsey, one of them.
Kelsey's the best one because the thing is that, people talking about the brother narrative. How about the narrative of Patrick Mahomes playing on one leg? That is going to give him a buffer where, he didn't deserve, well, I would argue he probably deserves MVP of every game that he plays and they win just because of what it means to the offense. Yeah. But, the fact that Damian Williams didn't win against San Francisco with his stat line versus Mahomes, where Mahomes had a pretty bad game up until the fourth quarter. I just think that, Mahomes might only need 215 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. And if they win the game, that's almost unbeatable, I would say, unless Kelsey gets both of the touchdowns and more than 50% of his yards. I just don't think there's a path.
The path that is even crazier than that. Mahomes has to throw no touchdowns. All of the Chiefs' touchdowns come on the ground except for one, which is thrown by Travis Kelsey. And at that point, if he is the only player on some sort of trick wild play that he has thrown the touchdown to Kadarius Toney or something wild like that, then you could probably get a better price than you're going to get on his MVP price. So fun way.
I think there's some 60-1 on Pacheco that's around. I don't mind that just because at least his stats are independent of Mahomes's, and I don't think there's a big gap in terms of win likelihood between Kelsey MVP and Pacheco MVP, because at least Pacheco is going to produce stats in isolation a bit more. All right, let's talk about some other of these props. Now, the opening kickoff to be a touchback is a popular one every year. The yes is steamed significantly. Now it's minus 185. The no is plus 140 on PointsBet. I think that was more I want to say it was minus 130 at some point. The thing is, with these props, they steam so aggressively because in the regular season, you can have markets that just sit up there kind of poorly priced up until a couple hours before game time because people aren't really focused on them. But now, people, they jump all over them pretty quickly. Are there any other kind of obscure props, Drew, that you're looking at?
Well, I was kind of surprised that after last year's so much was made about the special ball they use for the first kickoff and about how it's harder and shinier and they don't let them break it in the same way they do for the other kickoff balls. This price reflects perfectly what you've seen statistically from both of these kickers over the balance of the season, with the 50-50 weight of who gets to kick off first. But the idea of, the ball being a little tougher and, just not quite getting as much distance on it, I think is real. So I would take touchback no on the first kickoff at that price, just because there's potential. The other fun ones that really kind of stood out to me that I personally think a long field goal by the Eagles is very unlikely. There's so much signal now on what Sirianni wants to do. If they're in like long field goal territory versus going for it on a fourth down, you're going to get a go for it on fourth down, even if it's like 4th and 5. I think they're more inclined to go for it than they are to kick a 50-plus yarder. So Butker having the longest field goal, I think, is very, very live. And then the longest punts I thought were pretty interesting too. You have a pretty controlled environment here. Thin air didn't appear in the desert. And the longest punt markets are kind of in like the 54, 56 and a half range. And I think both of those could definitely get over as you have pretty good special teams units taking the field.
Yep, that's an interesting one. I think as well there's a market on PointsBet of will either team convert a fourth down in their own territory, the yes being plus 115, the no being minus 150. Now, it's a difficult market to price because on face value, my immediate reaction was, well, Sirianni is very likely to go for it on fourth down should it present itself in his own territory, just with recognizing that he's going to have to score to keep up with Mahomes. If it's 4th and 1 from the 44, then he's smart enough to know that you should probably go for it. At the same time, it's kind of difficult to get just to be able to be facing the fourth down first of all, and then it to be short enough to go for it. Is there anything that you like at those prices?
I think almost certainly I would take yes that there's going to be a first down attempted and converted in each team's own territory is perfectly fine to play both of those. You could see both of those. I think also in the 2-point conversion market, I would go full on that you're going to see 2-point conversion in this game. And the one that I'm the most excited about, obviously, is if this turns into a tie game, end of game situation here, and the Eagles or the Chiefs for that matter score the touchdown late. I really feel like both head coaches are going to be pretty highly incentivized to go for 2 in that situation instead of going to OT, just because at that point your defense is going to be, they're going to be on fumes. You're not going to be getting as good of a pass rush. You don't want to see Pat Mahomes with the ball in his hand in a sudden death situation. And then even if we get into an overtime and the team scores a touchdown, an extra point first, then all of a sudden you have incentive to score a touchdown and go for 2. And so, I think the 2-point conversion market is a little lightly priced, considering I think we're almost certainly going to see some attempts in this game and probably some conversion, because both of these teams exceptionally good in short yardage, like mind-bogglingly good. And the degree to which Chiefs in particular have all of the all of those wrinkles in their bag, you're going to see the trick plays, you're going to see fun, innovative ways, and I think you're going to see a 2-point conversion in this game.
Yep, I like that. All right, let's hit one more promo and then get into some other novelty props. A reminder, we'll have live coverage from the Super Bowl in Arizona all week on Peacock. Our daily lineup starts off with Dan Patrick at 9 a.m. Eastern, followed by the Fantasy Football Happy Hour, which I am on, with Matthew Berry at 12 p.m. Eastern. We've had some incredible guests past couple of days. We've had Mark Andrews yesterday. Today we had my man, Drew, Jonathan Taylor.
Yes.
As well as legends Sean Alexander, Chris Sims. Tomorrow we've got Brian Robinson, Josh Jacobs, among a cast of superstars. And then that's followed by PFT Live, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern. And then Brother from Another closes us out from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern with Michael Smith and Michael Holly. And if you don't catch it live, you can always check out the audio version wherever you download and subscribe to your podcasts. Now, by the way, quickly, on the Jonathan Taylor and Sean Alexander thing, notice a troubling trend, Drew. Well, we'll see if it's troubling, but every single person who has played in the NFL that I've spoken to about this game has picked the Eagles to win on the basis of offensive line and defensive line play. And everyone like me, you, other people who haven't played in the NFL but analyze the game and leaning Chiefs. So I don't know. I'm not sure how much that means, but that is just one thing where it's, the first thing I think of in this game is Patrick Mahomes. And it seems like the first thing that, Jonathan Taylor and others think of is, Lane Johnson and Jason Kelce, and the fact that the Eagles, they are going to dominate at the line of scrimmage. And that's probably one thing that we maybe haven't focused on enough, that the Chiefs aren't going to be able to stop the run. And it's just a matter of how much that matters. But are you concerned about the imbalance on the lines?
A little bit, but again, the way I look at it is, if you're, the imbalance on the line is not going to matter as much, I don't think, in the early part of the game, because your defense with 2 weeks of rest is just going to be shot out of the cannon, right? They are going to be making tackles, flying all over the field. Like, the idea that you're going to get, big chunk yards on the ground early in this game, I don't care how good their offensive line is. I don't think that's happening. What that would set up then eventually is a long third down. And on a long third down, I love the Chiefs' defense ability to come up with some sort of, just innovative blitz. That's what Spags does. Zone blitz that kind of catches Hurts in his tracks, and you're probably going to get some punts early as opposed to just efficient offense. And then, by the time that I would tilt the balance in favor of the offensive line in the running game, it may be too late for the Eagles. So that's kind of where my head is at with that sort of specific matchup. And the other thing that I think is worth kind of zeroing in on, this is a big step up for the Chiefs D line, right? Like, the most recent time we saw them, they were against the Little Sisters of the Poor for Kansas City, and now they got to go up against the best offensive line in the league, and that is a little concerning. So the idea that Hurts is going to be under significant pressure in this game, outside of the exotic blitzes that we just mentioned, I don't think it's very likely. So you really are counting on Hurts just not being quite as accurate as he was in the early part of the season, But the flip side is true, which is people have looked at what the Eagles did last time out against the Niners, and they're ascribing that to, like, man, we scored 31 points against the best defense in the NFL. Guys, are we really thinking that the Niners in their state last 2 weeks ago were the best defense in the NFL? Like, they were getting gashed by the Seahawks. They were getting gashed by the Raiders and the Commanders at the end of the season. Like, that team was not the same as the, sort of the peak Niners defense we saw towards the middle and, later 2/3 of the season. And, oh, by the way, the Chiefs, when they went up against the Niners defense, they made it look easy. The Eagles did not make it look easy. They needed a turnover and a short field at the end of that first half to put enough space between them and the Niners to get the Niners to quit, really. And so, I think people are in general succumbing to recency bias about how good the Eagles' offensive line looked against the Niners team that kind of quit in the second half at home, by the way. And now in a neutral situation against what I think I would grade what we've seen from the Chiefs over the final quarter of the season as a better defensive effort and just better defensive scheme, and a more complete defense than even what we saw from the Niners over the final quarter. Is that crazy? Or we talked a lot about how the Niners defense was overrated. I just feel like that's part of the equation here.
Yeah, well, I think the Niners had one clear weakness on defense, which was we'll continue with the Parisian pronunciation of Diomero Lenoir.
Lenoir.
Lenoir, as he goes by, Lenoir to me. But I think the Eagles game, like, they just let go of the rope. The penalties started to get a little insane, and I think you just can't. It's difficult to price in when you know that you're not going to win the game. Like, you just know that you're not going to win the game with Christian McCaffrey at quarterback. So I do think that it just got out of hand. It just wasn't a real game of football after the first quarter. So I don't think there's too much that can be read into that. Outside of Jalen Hurts not looking great in the passing game, despite what was going on. Let's close out by talking about some of these more novelty props outside of the field of play for the most part. Who will be shown first during the national anthem? Patrick Mahomes minus 160, Jalen Hurts plus 120. Feels like Mahomes gets shown first, doesn't it?
Yeah, that should be like minus 250. I mean, unless they are planning some much longer shot where they're capturing Mahomes singing some well-known part of the national anthem. The idea that they would go with the lesser-known of the two quarterbacks first is kind of crazy to me. I don't have any inside knowledge about what the Fox broadcast intends to do here, but this actually, would you believe it or not, this opened like minus 130 for Mahomes. This has gotten smacked a little bit, and I think in the right direction, but I don't think far enough.
Yep. No, I like that. Andy Reid, same price, and Nick Sirianni, same price. I'd say there's more chance of Sirianni than Hurts being shown, just because Reid isn't as, popular and massive a figure to the global audience as Patrick Mahomes is. So I think that that might be more of an angle if you like Philadelphia to be shown first in a way. The color of Patrick Mahomes' headband, white minus 400, red plus 200, black plus 700. I don't mind red. Plus
I don't mind
wearing white, right?
I don't mind red at all. Yeah. You want a little accent to go along with your white jerseys. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, Mahomes is a big fashion guy. I like red there, plus 200. Have you got any mail on the Gatorade?
Well, I mean, the handicap was pretty straightforward that Eagles used lemon lime when they beat the Patriots. Chiefs used orange when they beat the Niners. And I think there are enough big body kind of old leaders like the Fletcher Coxes and the Lane Johnsons of the world. They don't want you changing the Gatorade color. Like we're superstitious. We're using yellow again, and to that same degree, the Chris Joneses and the Travis Kelce's. Give us orange again. We're a little superstitious about this, and so I think if you like orange, if you like the Chiefs, you bet the orange. If you like the Eagles, you bet the lemon lime green.
Yeah, I like it. And the orange is plus 300, and we think the Chiefs are going to win anyway. So it's like the same thing. Why bet Super Bowl MVP Patrick Mahomes plus 135 if you can bet the Gatorade orange plus 300?
Really. I mean, we should be up. At this point we should be up. Several units by the time the anthem is over, and the rest of the game is going to be just to kick your feet up and enjoy it. So, I think I haven't gotten to the point where I'm going to commit to making a live bet on the Eagles if the Chiefs do go up 10-0, like Ryan Leaf kind of laid out there. But I think you were a bookmaker. What kind of price would you fire on Eagles to cover Chiefs exposure if game is getting out of control early, but it is 4 quarters of football?
Yeah, I go the other way. I think that if
you're playing the under,
well,
you're live under if this is Chiefs get out to an early start.
Double down on the Chiefs with a 10-0 lead. I think it is a real thing. Hurts playing from behind, his EPA per play playing from behind versus playing from in front is like outlier bad, that differential. And I think that if he's down 10-0, I think that's a real problem in a way that is maybe more accentuated than it would be for a normal 1.5 point pregame favorite. So, I mean, also, I'm on the Chiefs for a lot. It's not the amount of money where I need to get out of this position and lock in some Eagles profit. But if it's 10-0 Chiefs, I'm not going to be rushing to live bet the Eagles. I'm just going to be fist pumping my daughters, I guess, who I'm going to be watching the game with. But what do you think?
Yeah.
It's going to be a bet if the Eagles get out to, plus 250 live.
I'm going to cover some exposure if we see 5-1.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Okay, that's all right. Yeah. I'm not I don't like to. I don't go into games targeting hedges. I'm largely I bet the Bengals against the Chiefs.
Because the game was over. It looked like it was over.
In a way, it was to cover my position. It was more just I thought it was a good bet because I didn't think the market was accounting for the fact that the Chiefs had no wide receivers left. Yeah, so if a similar situation arrives, then I'll bet the Eagles. But otherwise, I won't be going out of my way to do so. All right, we are done. Don't forget to check out the NBC Sports EDGE.com website for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to those watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. Please remember to subscribe and rate us if you're listening to us in podcast form. From Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick, we'll be back tomorrow.